Testing, 1, 2, 3, check. Check. Okay, hello again everybody. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting class. Glad you're with me today. We're going to be doing an oil painting on 11 by 14 canvas, and it's a photo that I got from our Facebook group called Photos for Artists from a photographer named Jane Davidson. It's a seascape photo of an area in Vancouver, British Columbia called Tofino. It's a very beautiful area, I understand. I haven't been there, but some of the things I've found online and looked at look very, very interesting, very nice. So I want to go over to my computer now and show you a couple things I did with the photo and explain how we're going to paint this thing. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are on my computer here. This is the original photograph from Jane Davidson. It's a basic, very kind of a mild seascape scene, not large waves, but it's all kind of blue. And a lot of the paintings you see done in the Bob Ross style have a lot of blue in them. So I thought I might want to change this. I'll talk about that in a second. Here's the grid, which I always put over, my 4x5 grid. Each of these squares are about 2 3/4 inches, I would say, to make 11 by 14 canvas fit. There's just slightly less than that, but anyway, that's what I put on and use that as my guide to making the painting. And as I usually do, I did a value map, and this is a value map that I made. So I have about 3 or 4 values in here from white to really, really dark. And so I'll try to make that, give it depth perception and make a nice scene out of it. And then one more thing I've done, since this had a lot of blue, I thought, well, I'm going to maybe change it and we'll make it a seascape type of painting. So I did a color map. So this is the same value map that I had, the same segments, the same shapes, and so I just put about 4 colors in there and used sort of the yellow orange color for like a sky, for like a sort of a sunset sky, and so I'm basically taking all the blue out of it. So I hope you like that, and that's what we're going to paint today, and that's what we're going to work on. So I'll go back now to my easel and we'll get started. I'll go through the paints and brushes and we'll get going. Hold on. Okay, so I'm back here at my easel now, and I want to show you the brushes and the paints that I'm going to use, and how we're going to make this a sunset seascape instead of a really bright sunshiny day. So here's my palette, and I have my colors on here, my Bob Ross colors. I have my brushes. I don't know if I'm going to use all these brushes, but I certainly will use this big 1-inch brush. I will use this fan brush. May use this filbert a little bit, and my script liner, I'm pretty sure I'll use that. And I have my trusty painting knife over here that I'll use, I'm sure, when we put some of the mountains in and some of the parts of the landscape that need this that I can really use the knife with. Okay, so let's go through the paints. Here's my Bob Ross colors, titanium white. Notice there's no blue, no phthalo blue, no Prussian blue. Midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, alizarin crimson, a touch of sap green. I don't think there's really no green in this painting to speak of. The original photo did have some green trees and stuff in the background, but they really kind of missed it out. You couldn't see them very well. Cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red. There's not much bright red either. And I have ultraviolet here. This is a Grumbacher color. So that's the paints. That's the brushes. I also have my liquid white here that I'm going to use. I'm going to actually tint this liquid white a little bit. I haven't done that before. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in it and sort of make an underpainting of a sort of a light yellow, sort of Indian yellow maybe color. And so that's what we're going to do now. So I think everything's running. All my cameras are running. My broadcast is working, and I think you're able to see it. I'm really happy about that. I don't know if you noticed I had trouble getting the broadcast to work. Explain just a second what happened here. I use a software product on my broadcast computer called Wirecast. They came out with a new version of that software toward the end of the year. And at the same time, YouTube changed their studio that accepts the broadcasts, and they changed the way you had to get them started. So always before, I used Wirecast and YouTube. When I started broadcasting on my computer here, it would automatically be picked up by YouTube and it would start the broadcast. The new software, the new version of the studio requires that I have to push a button on the YouTube website to get the broadcast started. I didn't realize that when I did my last live class, so I kind of screwed that up. So I think I got it figured out now. If you're all watching and able to see this, you know that at least the broadcast is working, and I figured out that little problem. All right, so let's get going. I want to zoom in on my canvas here, get going. You see my 3 photos at the top. I have the original photo here, I have my color map, and I have my value map. So I'll be using those 3 to sort of make sure I got the right values, make sure I got the right tones and colors, and that will hopefully help me do a good painting out of this. Let me see if I can get this lined up so I can have my palette overlay and see if that works. All right. So the broadcast should now be showing you the canvas along with the palette overlaid in the lower right hand corner. All right, so first thing we do is we always start with liquid white. I'm going to cover this, have a very, very light sketch. You can't even see it. I've got some little pencil marks on here that kind of indicate where this mountain is here and where the background is and where this big cliff coming down here is. And I'm going to paint over all that anyway, so that's sort of my dilemma when I use Bob Ross colors, is that you tend to wipe out you wipe out any sketch or anything you have, and it doesn't work for you. So you can't really use sketches too well when you do the Bob Ross wet and wet. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to put on a very light coat of sort of a yellow color here. This is basically Indian yellow, Bob Ross Indian yellow, and liquid white. So I'm using the liquid white to get it to flow. And I'm using a little bit of the Indian yellow to give it this nice tone, sort of an orange-yellow tone. It's got a little more orange in it, maybe at the top. And I want to sort of fade it down as we go, put maybe a little more in there at the top. So this is all the underpainting I'm working on. And I'm just going to kind of fade it down and get it to fade out into something that would look like it's a sky, a sunset back here in the back. So see my pencil marks through here. Don't like that particularly. Don't know if I can paint over them or not. This Indian yellow is a very transparent paint, and you can just about see everything through it. So we'll just do this. We'll come on down. I'm just going to kind of fill this all in with whatever colors in the brush, and gradually get it lighter and lighter as we go down. This side over here is going to be all dark. But I want to have this underpainting of this light yellowish color in here that I'm going to be using and painting over it as we go. I wish I hadn't put all those little marks on there for my guides, but you need some kind of guide, I think, to help you figure out where things are going. So I'm getting all this canvas totally covered here, and I'm going to come back and maybe put a little more of the Indian yellow here in the top, make it just a little darker at the top, and I may not do much more than that for the sky. I may picked up a little red there. I could put some clouds here, maybe if I want to. Put a little few brown spots of some clouds. But pretty much that is what I want to have there. It looks like when I look on my monitor behind me here, it looks like it could be a little darker even yet in the top. So let's come back and put just a few more dark places in here. Key in the corners, darken them down maybe a little more. And so since I've never been to Tofino, I don't really know what a sunset looks like around there. I may have it even totally backwards. I don't even know if this particular view would have it will have some sort of a sunset. It'll have some sort of a sky, I'm sure of that, but this sort of a yellowish sky. But I don't know if the sun would be placed right here or where it would be. I'm sort of making that up. And so if you've been to Tofino and you know where the sun sets on this particular beach, you can sort of correct me and tell me I'm wrong. Okay, so that's the underpainting for the whole thing. I'll put a little more color in here where I want it to be just a little darker, maybe in this area. And that's the beginning. So I'll leave that for now and get my maybe wipe this brush out a little bit. We can start now putting in this background back here that's going to have some little more ochre and brown, maybe some I want the colors to come toward me, and I want them to keep this yellowish color. So I'm mixing dark sienna with my Indian yellow. And we're going to come right in here somewhere, and if I can find my spot again, and right in here we're going to start putting in some of this mountain in the background here. It goes all the way over into this area. Okay. A few more dark places. Come down like this. Something like that. It could be a little more, have a little more definition on the top. It's a little more bumpy than this. Put a few spots in there. All right. I want it to be darker at the top of these mountains because I want it to sort of fade into a little bit of a mist that I want to be below it. So I'm just going to touch in a few spots here with this dark sienna. Like this. And we're going to give a little bit of this misty look to the bottom of these mountains. I think maybe while I'm at it, while I got this brush, I'm going to go back and put a few clouds in that sky. It's kind of barren up there. So let's don't leave that while we're too soon. Let's go put a few things in here like this and sort of just put some things there. I don't want it to look like mountains. I want it to look like sky. So let's do the old X stroke on these things and make them look like there's some clouds up here. Yeah, that's not too bad. Pick up some spots here. It gives it a little bit of texture in that sky, so it's not just one big barren area up there. sort of fade it. Let's make it a little darker on the right. I'm just ad-libbing here, folks. I don't have anything to go with other than my color map and my original photo. Original photo had no clouds in it. My color map was pretty basic, just big blocks of color. So that's starting to look kind of the way I was envisioning it. Down here, I'm going to use a little more of my white. I'm still using this 1-inch brush. I have not done anything to clean it out. I'm just wiping it out with my paper towel, and I'm going to put just a little bit of mist in here, like this. I want it to reflect that mist around here. I'm going to put another row of trees under here, so just want that to lighten up a little bit. And there is lighter paint underneath it, but it's not white. It's has that yellow tint in it. So I put just a touch of liquid white on my brush, and I'm just feathering that in. Okay. So much for that. All right, let's put another row of trees across here. They're going to be a little darker. I'm going to use a different brush. I think I'm going to use my filbert brush. I don't use that very often on these Bob Ross paintings, but there is a filbert brush that Bob Ross, with his name on it. This particular one is it's a floral brush, but it doesn't make any difference. It's still the same type of bristles. So in this area here, we're going to put in some more brown, and we're going to make it look like we've got a whole bunch of trees and stuff in here. And I'm going to leave them all this sort of this brown shade with a little bit of this Indian yellow in them, but I want them to be darker. They have to be darker than what's behind them, so they come forward. Right? We want these to come forward. So I'm just tapping the brush, and I'm trying to keep it below this area of mist, so you can see the row of trees going across here. And they come down and they go touching the water here somewhere. There's actually another bit of mountain or something over this way. I'm using the original photo sort of give me this idea of what this really looks like back here. But just tap. Let whatever comes off the brush come off the brush, and this comes down, yeah, about right into here somewhere is where the bottom of that is, and where it touches the water. I actually have another computer up here by my elbow, folks. If you have any comments or questions or something you don't understand, put a comment or a question in the chat window, and I look at it periodically and try to keep up with your comments and questions. So I'm going to put just a few more darks in here. This needs to have a little more coloration, I would say, so that it's not all just one blended color. I want some change of value in here. So you can see these are really some sort of trees that are lining this peninsula that sticks out, and some are a little taller than others, and they stick above the mist back there behind them, and you can see them because I'm making them stick up. Okay. I see your comment, Lindy, that you can hear me loud and clear. That's good, and you can see me too. That's even better. I I do have a browser that will now work with the new YouTube Studio, which I'm having a little trouble with that because they only let it work with the Chrome browser for me, so that's not making me too happy either. But anyway, this is the land back here, and where it joins the water. The thing I didn't put any blue in here is because if I put blue over this yellow, I'm going to get a lot of green, and I don't want it to look like grass. There is green in the ocean water for sure, but this particular little mountain that goes over this way is darker yet and has a little bit of green in it. I'm going to use a little sap green just to sort of green it up a little bit. I'm going to still use some of this Indian yellow and continue to use my filbert brush here and see if I can get this little mountain in over here. Kind of goes up to like a point almost, and then just kind of veers right off like that. I'm using Van Dyke brown. It's darker. A little bit of sap green to give it some green. And I need a little bit of my dark sienna as well to give it a little more reddish color. So this is going to come down this way like that. And I can get some more dark. Actually a dark section that comes across like this. So I'm getting a lot of that underpainting is coming out. I'm getting a lot of runny. The paint's very soft and blends a lot right here. So I have to make it thicker. And if I want it to stand out, I have to make it thicker. All right, and so over here I'll make a little bit more straight, something like that. Has a little more of a point on it than that, so I'll just make it slightly more pointed. I think that's very close. Okay, now let's see if I want any of this color over here. Just for harmony's sake, I'm going to pull some of that green over here so it doesn't look like this is a monochrome painting. I don't want it to look like a sepia study or something like that. I want it to look like it has some color in it. So we'll just pull a few of those over here. Helps bring that color over this way. Okay, so let's stop on that for a second. I'm going to clean out this brush and we'll get going on the next phase. So my back area here, this is where the water starts here. So I'm going to just sort of give it that sort of clean it up a little bit, clean that edge up a little bit. It's sort of there. Okay, so I can leave that water light back there if I want. I can start putting in a bit of some waves and change that up a little bit. Let's see, I'm going to try something here. This may not work. I may go back and wipe it out, but I'm going to use a little bit of my midnight black, a little bit of this ultraviolet. That's the only color I'm going to get that's got some blue in it, is my this ultraviolet here. So I want to have something that makes it look like there is some water back here. So this ultraviolet will go well with the yellow and the orange, since it's a complementary color to the so we'll just run this over here where there's I'll have that darker in here. Using my fan brush here. Ultraviolet, a little bit of midnight black to keep it dark. And I'm just sort of pulling it forward. And as I pull it forward, it's going to get lighter. Like this. And then there's another section over here on the right that's darker. It kind of goes under this. Like that. I'm going to run it all the way out here to straighten that edge out there. This sort of joins in here. Like that. There's another whole section of wave action going on here, quite a bit of it. So my black, this midnight black, when you put some white in it, it sort of turns a little bit violet itself, and so I'm adding a little bit of my ultraviolet to continue that. All right, that's a good start for underlaying that all. It goes all the way over here. Let's see, I got this other mountain that's going to come down from about here down to way into there. So that's this cliff that comes down here. I've got to have water. I want this water to run up side of it and run into it. So I'm going to just continue that. And I'll come back and put some white caps on this to make it sort of flow together. Okay, so that's not too bad. All right, why don't we go ahead and put this cliff in here on the left side. Get it in position so I know where I've got to work. It is going to be darker. It's going to be Van Dyke brown and some black. I'm going to use my big brush here. And it starts about right in here. It just sort of comes down this way, like that. Comes down and sort of goes out there. This brush really spreads out, makes a lot of. So it kind of goes up this way, and it's got another bit of a peninsula that sticks out here. Yeah, let's see if I can get that in there. Well, I've got this big brush going. Comes out here like this, and sort of, it's just a little bit of a little inlet there. Okay, so that's the underpainting for this cliff on the left side. I think I'm going to clean out this brush finally. I didn't do much to clean it out a while ago. Didn't do anything to clean it out, actually. Okay, let's see what the next step is here. I think my clouds are okay. This area, I'm going to pretend that's the sun coming through there. These other mountains are, this is much sharper. It's got a sharper definition than the ones in the back because they're further away. So now let's come in and see if we can take some of this titanium white, put it on my fan brush, get just a touch of yellow in it. I don't want much yellow in it. I'm just getting a little bit of this Indian yellow to just sort of lighten it up just a little, but I want it to be dominantly white. You can put some liquid white in there. We're going to come in and put just a row of, it's probably really hard for you to even see that. I don't know. It's going to lighten it up, going to make it whiter. I'm just sort of pushing, pulling, leaving little globs of paint stick up like there's a little bit of some sort of wave action going on back there. Over here, as we come down this way, we're getting more wave action. So let's sort of take it and pull it over this blue that's underneath it. And I'll make a little bit more back here to just sort of tie it together. So the yellow will help sort of tie it into the sky. The sky would be reflecting into this for sure, right? So let's do that. We've got a little more here. There's some more wave action going on right in here in this area. So let's see if we can put some of those in. Actually, there's it's not too strong right in there. It's kind of smooth right through there. This is the area where the big action is, right in here. And there's so I'm trying to make this wave action more distinct as I come forward, and more of it whiter. It's not quite as faded as it is back behind it. I've got another little peninsula that sticks out here that I want to stick in underneath. Okay, so let's leave that for now. I'll get my what did I do with my knife? Hello, there it is. All right. This area here, I'm going to come down this mountainside now and see if I can make these edges much sharper. To do that by putting in this, using this brush with a little bit, or this palette knife with a little roll of paint on it, and just sort of bringing it down like this, letting canvas pull off what it will, using my midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, sort of all kind of mixed together. This area here is where the little peninsula goes out, like right here. Let's put that in. Didn't quite get it in right yet. Let's put it in here again, like this there. All right. It needs to be, yeah, it's got some wave action coming back over the top of it, so we'll fix that in a minute. There's a bunch of waves that are coming over this area. So this is just whatever the canvas pulls off. I'm not trying to paint specific rocks or whatever. I'm trying to make it look very rocky and craggy. I don't know the right word there. But let's pull it down here. I'm going to put a little ochre in there. It looks like I see a little bit of ochre in it. Maybe lighten it up at the bottom here a little bit in this area. There is some ochre color I see in the yeah, this sort of even runs out even further into the water out there like this. And this all kind of comes down to a rocky bottom here that's like this. I think it's getting some depth. I have a lot of difference in color. The values are a lot darker in the foreground, which they should be, and they look lighter in the background, which they should. And let's see here, this is gonna, not like this, leave that to be sort of messy right there. This is going to be probably even darker here. Let me put a little of my violet in it and see if that'll help darken it down a little bit, maybe even more. Yeah. All right, put a few marks in here like that. Getting done pretty quickly with this, folks, actually. I've been going about a half an hour. I don't want these to look like, see, you see my repeated knife strokes there, there, there. These are all clones, and I don't like that. I like to get rid of clones. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit so it doesn't look like the same knife stroke. Down here, there. Okay. I think that's looking pretty good. I might want to come back and put just a little more dark in some spots here to give it a little more texture, a little more definition. Okay, let's stop with that. All right, now our colors that we're using for the water is a lot of my violet. See what this looks like here. That's really pretty dark, isn't it? It should be a little darker. There's an area across here that's a little bit darker. I'm going to run it up this way. And doing it with a knife, I'm using ultraviolet and just a little bit of Indian yellow. They tend to gray each other down a little bit. The Indian yellow will gray the violet down. The violet will gray the yellow down. And you sort of get these colors that are showing up in here. Across here, this should be, put some more in there. I'm going to put some of this other color. Got it really grayed down there. But that's okay. Up here we got some stuff going on. So I want that yellow to come through because the sunlight, what's coming from the sunset is actually reflecting onto the water. So I don't want the water to be this bright sky blue that you would normally see in this painting if I were just following the color palette that is on the painting. So I'm just sort of mixing it up, adding some darks in here, give ourselves some different tones, different values. So is all being made up pretty much. It's almost like an abstract might be, where I'm just sort of kind of listening to the painting, seeing what it needs. These are a little darker in here. It's really too dark. So let's blend it out a little bit. Come back with maybe some white over the top of it here to sort of keep running into the bottom of my easel down here. So I make it, it's looking rough and tumbly here, which is okay because it's hitting these rocks. So let's leave it at that. Let's put a little more in this area even. There's a mixture of color and it's got some browns and kind of stuff going on down here. Okay, we've been going about 38 minutes, 35 minutes. I need to take a break for a second. Hold on. I have to stop periodically and take a good drink of water because my hands will cramp up, which I don't like, but I can't help it. I'm taking a medication that basically makes me dehydrate myself all the time, and it's kind of hard to put up with. Anyway, that's my tale of woe. Let's let's fill this out over here with some more of this color. I'm just picking up whatever's on the canvas and flowing it out this way, and kind of making it lighter and lighter as I come forward, almost into white with this sort of yellow underglow, if you will, underpainting. So I'm merging it together, leaving it messy in some areas, leaving it smooth in some areas. I'll come back and put a few more crashing waves in here. But basically, you don't have to do a lot. This is basically a beach, and so we want it to be rough in some areas and smooth in some areas, and hitting the bottom of my easel here. There we go. Okay, so the water is very calm up here next to the shore. So let's put a few rough marks in here. Let's put some of this. I want to get more paint on my brush than that. So a little bit of the liquid white will help, because it'll go on easier and it will stay on top easier. Like this. I want this to go flaring off into this area like it's a big crash of the wave. I want it to be bigger. And then these over here are going to can't be very big out here, or they'd be really crashing into the water, into the beach, and they don't really crash into the beach that much. They're sort of tapered off. They're really not too much to them by the time they get to the beach here. So let's just put a few more of these waves here, let them sort of move around. I'll come back and put a few darks underneath those to give them the contrast you need to actually see what they are. These are sort of like this. Put in a few things there. Just little bits of waves, sort of stuff. See right here, actually, I think this is an area where we could use the knife. I'll see if I can make that work. I've seen Bob Ross do that with his knife, and sort of come in here and put in a, like that, where it has a sort of a shadow underneath it. Something like this, maybe back here. Something like that. We'll put some more dark back in this area underneath some of these waves to kind of give them a, let them stand out just a little more than they do. It's almost too much right there. Want some dark. You need the dark to see the light, and so put a few dark places here that we can amplify these waves a little bit, so it looks like we're seeing underneath them. The only dark I'm using here is ultraviolet. I might put a little midnight black in it, but pretty much these are put one up here like this. I'll I need to go back and pull that over again. Once you put in the dark underneath, sometimes you need to go back and pull it back over to make it look right. So it's sort of a rough and tumble sort of sea here. Let's see if I can make these like that. Put some more of these. Just sort of, they're coming at a couple different ways. Some are coming in this way and some are coming in that way. So I'll just sort of like that. This is all smooth in here. That, okay. I could probably mess with this for a couple hours trying to get those these waves to look more realistic, but I think this is going to have to about do it. Now Lindy's going to tell me don't forget to put some birds in if she hasn't already. Hello from Brazil, Denise. Hi, from Brazil, welcome. Just decided to look at my computer here. Okay, let's see. Put a few more marks like that. Something like that. Just a little shadow under there helps make that look like that's a very small type of wave coming in. They all pretty much dissipate by the time they get to the shore. And I think the yellow has stayed in there. I've kept that tone of this Indian yellow in here. I'm going to put just a little more down here in the front because I want it to sort of reflect that sky more and look as if it's getting close to land here. All right, something like that. Step back and look at it, see if it needs something. I might put just a few touches of this yellow sort of reflections on some spots here on these craggy areas so that you definitely see a little bit of a, I don't know if I like that. I'm just going to pull it down here. Thinking one other thing, I'm thinking this mountain back here needs to be just a little bit darker, I think. That's way too dark, but that's a start. I'll use that as my blending color. Bring it down. It gives a little more distinction, a little more definition. It actually shows some shadow. See, I don't have any shadows going on here because they are away from the sun. If the sun's behind them, we should have some amount of darkness here. Let's put a little more at the bottom here, maybe. Something like that helps. I think it helps that stand out so that it's not I don't want it to be too blended into the background. Here I'm going to put a few more dark edges, black, midnight black. I want these to stand out so you know they're touching the water, but they have this distinction, so they're not just blended into the water. They're not part of the water. This sort of gets kind of muddy and flows out into this area here. All right, I kind of like that better. I'd like pulling this out a little bit more. I think it helps balance it. Okay, so just to be consistent, I'm going to put a couple of birds in the sky here. 2, I should usually use an odd number, they say. They say, so where would they be? Well, let's see. I'm going to put them over here. I don't want to put them over here. I got a lot of stuff here. If I'm going to balance anything, I'll put them over here on this side, right? They can't be too big. If you make them too big, come on, you got to get some more thinner on here to make that a thinner color so that it goes over what's there. If you make them too big, if you imagine where they are out in the ocean, maybe 200-300 yards out there, if they fly into you, if they're so big, when they get to you, they're going to be like a pterodactyl. So you want to make them fairly small. My brush has got a funny tip on it. It's not rounded like I want it. And let's put a third one out there to be properly. Put this little guy down here. We'll put him over here like that. All right, I think that's about enough. And I'll take the palette off and let you see what I've got done here. Hope you can see that very well. I'm going to throw my signature over here, maybe like right here. See if this will work. All right. I hope you like that. Hope you give it a try, and leave me some comments. The other thing I found out about YouTube is that because they've had all this problem with videos for kids and trying to keep bad comments off, they've restricted comments. So to get my videos monetized, I've made them for kids. But when I did that, they eliminated all my comments. So all the comments you've put on are now gone for some reason. So I've got another little battle going with YouTube right now over where are the comments and why aren't they there. So this video has been marked not for kids, and I don't do anything that's offensive anyway, so I don't know how to mark my videos so that I can get paid for them and you can have comments on them. So I have a question into the my partner at YouTube to explain this to me, so hopefully your comments will survive and we'll be able to keep them attached to this video. That's it for today. Please check out my Facebook site, my website, my Patreon site. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and please share this with your friends if you like my videos and you like my painting style. I'd appreciate it. So I think that's all I want to say for now. So until I see you next time, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye. Put a little zoom in here for you. Go way in. Okay.